luxury, prestige, and success. These words stick to Rolex like a shadow that never fades. For over 100 years, Rolex hasn't just sold watches. They've sold a dream, one wrapped in stainless steel and gold, backed by the legend of flawless Swiss craftsmanship. Think about it for a second. When you picture a Rolex, what do you see? It's more than just a watch. You see a high-powered CEO sealing a multi-million-dollar deal, a movie star turning heads on the red carpet, an entrepreneur raising a glass to their first big payday.
Rolex is one of the few brands, if not the only brand, that has a very specific aesthetic. They are sporty, they are active, they are tool watches. That's kind of their main DNA. In the 50s, they came out with the Submariner, the Explorer, the Milgauss, the GMT, and they were all watches that were designed and made to be used as tools. And so that's their bread and butter, and it still is today. It kind of evolved into a luxury brand later in life, which now is what they're known for. So that's kind of the interesting thing about them, is they initially were tool watches, which have now become luxury.
For millions around the world, a Rolex isn't just a way to check the hour. It's a badge of honor. A crown on your wrist that practically shouts, "I made it." But here's the twist no one wants to talk about. Behind those sparkling boutique windows, past the eye-catching Instagram shots, and underneath that famous crown logo, there's a story that even most Rolex owners have never heard. A story that doesn't start in Switzerland, but thousands of miles away, somewhere far noisier, less glamorous, and a lot more real. It stretches east, all the way to bustling factories and neon-lit city streets. The true nerve center of the modern watch industry, hiding in plain sight. Once you learn the truth, you might never look at your so-called status symbol in the same way again. That's why, before we pull back the curtain, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe. Trust me, you don't want to miss what's about to drop. The biggest bombshells are still to come. The Rolex image is built on the idea of absolute perfection. These aren't just watches, they're meant to be feats of engineering, marvels of human creativity. Every piece is supposed to strike the perfect balance between elegance, toughness, and timeless style, all locked inside a timepiece that can cost more than a car. Rolex knows exactly how to sell that fantasy. When you hear Swiss-made, they know the picture that pops into your mind. Cozy mountain workshops in the Swiss Alps. Master craftsmen with silver hair hunched over tiny gears, assembling each watch by hand. Silent rooms where you can practically hear every tick. The air in those Swiss workshops, thick with tradition, legacy, and the scent of carefully preserved history. But what if I told you that much of that picture, the one you've been sold for decades, is a masterful illusion? The cold, hard truth is this. The Rolex on your wrist, the one you shelled out thousands or even tens of thousands for, isn't as purely Swiss as you've been led to believe. In fact, some parts may have racked up more miles than you have, traveling halfway around the globe before ever reaching Switzerland. Once you see how deep that rabbit hole goes, it changes everything. Forget about Switzerland for a second. The iconic Alps, the chocolate box villages, the hushed workshops, that's the fantasy. The reality? It looks a lot more like Shenzhen. If you've never heard of Shenzhen, it's time to pay attention. This isn't some sleepy town. It's a booming megacity on China's southeastern coast, home to nearly 20 million people, a forest of skyscrapers, and more technology startups than Silicon Valley could ever dream of. But more importantly, it's the engine room of the global watch industry. Factories, hundreds upon hundreds, buzz day and night, churning out everything from bargain bin digitals to luxury-level components. Here's a fact that would make luxury executives squirm. Over 95% of the world's watches are made in China, and Shenzhen is leading the charge. That includes the budget digital watches you see in discount bins, but also the gleaming, high-end pieces displayed in velvet-lined boutique cases. This isn't just mass production, it's high quality, precision engineering. From cases and dials to bezels and bracelets, Shenzhen's factories produce it all, using cutting-edge tech and skilled hands. What makes Shenzhen unstoppable is its complete ecosystem. Within tightly packed industrial zones, you'll find every supplier, every craftsman, and every workshop you could ever need, sometimes all on the same street. Need a flawless sapphire crystal for a luxury watch? No problem. Mirror-polished ceramic bezels, precision-milled steel links, it's all just steps away. This industrial clustering means companies can source every single watch component without ever leaving the city. It's fast, it's cheap, and it's unbelievably efficient. But here's the shocker. This network isn't just serving budget brands, it's fully intertwined with the luxury watch world, including the one with the famous crown. Yes, even Rolex. Time for a hard truth that most die-hard watch fans would rather ignore. When your Rolex, Omega, or any other Swiss-made timepiece proudly displays those words on its face, what does it actually mean? The reality is, it doesn't guarantee every piece was born in the shadow of the Matterhorn or painstakingly put together by an old-world Swiss master. That's the myth. The reality? It's a whole lot more global and a lot more complicated. That number, 60%, means just one thing. For a watch to earn the label Swiss-made, at least 60% of its value must come from Switzerland. Notice the word value, not parts, not even all the craftsmanship. Value includes things you can't see: branding, marketing, final assembly, research, and development. Here's how the game is played. A factory in Shenzhen manufactures nearly everything: the case, the strap, the dial, sometimes even the movement's most intricate parts. Then, these components are boxed up and shipped off to Switzerland. There, Swiss workers, often using advanced machines, assemble the pieces, fine-tune the movement, polish the finish, and maybe engrave a crown logo. That final step is just enough to tip the scales. Suddenly, a watch made mostly from parts crafted thousands of miles away qualifies as Swiss-made. And just like that, the price tag explodes. Thousands, sometimes tens of thousands of dollars, all because of a clever, perfectly legal marketing sleight of hand that thrives on consumer assumptions. So ask yourself, if your watch is 40% Swiss and 60% from somewhere else, what exactly are you paying for? Is it the legendary craftsmanship or just a well-told story? For years, the luxury watch industry has kept the world in the dark. Factories in China, execs in Switzerland, authorized dealers around the globe, they've all played along, working in perfect unison to preserve the myth. But in the digital age, secrets have a way of slipping through the cracks. And in 2024, everything changed. A shocking leak shattered the silence. Suddenly, videos started making the rounds online. Grainy clips from inside bustling warehouses in Shenzhen. Rows upon rows of boxes stacked high, stamped with brand names everyone knows, stuffed with Rolex-style bracelets, dials, bezels, even movement components. The footage was explosive. Collectors, industry insiders, and casual fans alike couldn't look away. The internet blew up. Watch forums turned into battlegrounds. YouTube channels did frame-by-frame breakdowns, exposing every detail. Speculation became outrage, and outrage turned into real anxiety behind the scenes at the world's most powerful luxury brands. And how did Rolex react? With absolute silence. No public denials, no lawsuits, no official statements, and definitely no media blitz. Instead, they acted in the shadows, quietly instructing certain dealers to slash prices on some of their biggest models. Suddenly, the Submariner, the GMT Master 2, the classic Oyster Perpetual icons of luxury were dropping by up to 20% in certain markets. No press release, no advertising, just the sound of prices falling and the world watching in shock. But for anyone really watching, the message couldn't have been clearer. The illusion of untouchable exclusivity had finally cracked, and for the first time in decades, the crown was starting to slip. For years, luxury watch brands, especially Rolex, built their entire empire on a single powerful promise. Rarity wasn't just about the watch you were buying, it was about being admitted into a private world. The waiting lists, the sky-high resale prices, the velvet rope boutique displays. It was all designed to make you feel chosen, like a member of an elite club set apart from the masses. But when the leaks from Shenzhen hit, and the truth about the real supply chain started to spread, that fantasy of rare, unreachable luxury began to unravel. Suddenly, the numbers told a brutal story, one that nobody in the industry wanted to discuss out loud. In 2024, Swiss watch exports, the pride of a century-old industry, dropped to their lowest point in 20 years, excluding the unprecedented pandemic collapse. Collectors noticed first. Luxury watch forums, usually packed with excitement about new releases, filled with nervous speculation and doom scrolling. Prices for second-hand Rolex, Cartier, and Omega models started to drop, some by double digits. Private dealers who once bragged about markups and month-long waiting lists suddenly couldn't move their inventory. The luxury brands themselves, dead silent. But behind the scenes, the panic was real. As the classic luxury market stumbled, another market was quietly exploding. the factory-built homage watch scene. Now, this isn't your run-of-the-mill counterfeit operation. These aren't the 60 knockoffs with plastic lenses and laughable logos. These are watches being assembled in the very same factories that supply components to Rolex, Omega, and other big names. The twist? These homage watches come with no brand name, no trademark, and absolutely none of the luxury markup. Insiders call them B-grade builds made with the same materials by the same hands but sold outside the official channels. The designs are nearly identical to those luxury icons you see in glossy ads, but the branding is stripped away. Sometimes they're called OEM watches, original equipment manufacturer, virtually identical in build, minus that famous logo. Thanks to encrypted messaging apps like Telegram, WeChat, and WhatsApp, watch fans are cutting out retailers altogether. They message factories directly, order custom specs, pick their favorite materials, and end up paying a fraction of boutique prices. The result? A growing underground of collectors and enthusiasts who proudly sport high-quality factory-built watches, no logo, no retail markup, no luxury tax. For the luxury brands, this is the stuff of nightmares. They can't stop it, they can't police it, and every day their old story of exclusivity looks a little more shaky. The truth is, luxury watches have always come with steep price tags. That's part of the mystique. But when you look past the branding and crunch the real numbers, the reality is stunning. Take a typical 10,000 Rolex. Industry insiders estimate the cost to manufacture a typical 10,000 Rolex falls somewhere between $2,500 and $4,000. That covers everything: materials, labor, even the power bills at the factory. For comparison, take Christopher Ward, a respected British brand. They openly say they never charge more than 3 times what it costs to make a watch. Omega, they average around 4 times the build cost. Rolex, they're famous for pushing that markup even higher, 5 times, sometimes more, all depending on the model. And the profits don't stop there. Luxury giants like Swatch, Richemont, and LVMH rake in healthy margins, but even compared to tech legends, they look humble. Apple, 32% profit margin. Microsoft, even higher, about 38%. Novo Nordisk, the pharma giant behind Ozempic, pulls in 39%. But when you pull back the velvet curtain and peek at the luxury watch world, hidden behind sparkling boutiques and secretive accounting, the margins are even fatter, especially when you count the massive volume of watches being sold. And then there's Rolex. Their business model makes the numbers even murkier. Unlike LVMH or Richemont, Rolex isn't a public company. They don't answer to shareholders. They don't file annual reports. They operate as part of the Hans Wilsdorf Foundation, a private nonprofit entity set up by their founder. Sounds noble, right? In reality, it means Rolex is one of the most secretive, powerful, and profitable brands on the planet. They pump out over 1 million watches a year, bring in billions in revenue, and enjoy profit margins that dwarf almost every other luxury name. They control every piece of their supply chain, from gold foundries and movement manufacturers to polishing shops and assembly lines. It's a system built for maximum secrecy, ironclad control, and eye-watering profits. Let's be real, fakes exist in every luxury sector. Handbags, sneakers, jewelry, watches are no exception. The difference? With timepieces, it's about more than just metal and moving parts. It's about confidence. Those cheap 50 counterfeits you see online, they're laughable. Light as a feather, loud ticking, flimsy metal. No collector is fooled. But the new generation of factory-built homages, those B-grade builds from the very same suppliers, blur the lines like never before. Same weight, same sapphire glass, same smooth second hand. To most people, and even some seasoned collectors, they're almost impossible to spot from the real thing. But here's the twist. The real difference isn't in the materials. It's psychological. Even if your watch looks and feels identical, if you know it's not the real deal, there's always that whisper in your mind. They'll know. Step into a room full of collectors, let the light hit the dial, or let someone feel the bracelets glide. Every detail is scrutinized. With a real luxury watch, you walk in with quiet confidence. With a fake, you walk in with a question mark. And for many, that feeling is worth every penny. So what does it all mean? The luxury watch industry survives on stories of rarity, of heritage, of Swiss-made magic. But scratch the surface, and the truth is way more complicated. Factories in China build the guts, legal loopholes let Swiss-made labels end up on mostly imported products. Profits soar while consumers hold on to a fantasy. So the next time you gaze at that shimmering Rolex in the display window, ask yourself, are you buying craftsmanship or just a legend? Because real luxury isn't always about what's on your wrist. Sometimes it's just knowing the truth and deciding what matters to you. The luxury world doesn't want these secrets out, but the internet changed the game forever. The shadows are shrinking. The real stories are coming to light. The only question left, will you buy the myth or face the reality? Either way, time's ticking. If this opened your eyes, hit like and subscribe for more. Because the world of luxury, it's only begun to reveal its secrets. And we're just getting started.